My own two kids sat me down at my kitchen table, slid a laminated babysitting schedule across it like they were handing me a work shift, and told me right to my face that I was just Grandma, and what else did I have to do all day? And by the time it was all said and done, the two of them were standing on my front porch in the cold begging me, and I did not open the door. And listen, before I get one word deeper into this, I want to say I'm real glad you're sitting here with me right now. That honestly means something to me. Do me one small favor while you're here. Tell me down in the comments what city you're listening from, because I go through and read those, every single one, and I'll give you a shout out by name in the next one. And a like, a subscribe, whatever you've got in you today, that's the whole reason a little channel like mine gets to keep going. Okay? So, let me just take you right to that kitchen table, because that's where the ground opened up under me. It was a Sunday. I'd made a pot roast because Ryan always asks for it, and Megan brought the kids, and we ate. And it was nice, or I thought it was nice. Then Megan reaches down into that giant bag she carries, and she pulls out this laminated sheet. Laminated. She'd gone to the trouble of laminating it, and she slides it across the table at me, and she's got this bright little voice on, and she goes, "Okay, Mom." So we figured out a system. I picked it up. It was a color-coded weekly calendar. Monday through Friday, I had Bryce after school and Harper all day. 2 evenings a week, I had all of them, so Megan and Cody could have date nights. Ryan had me penciled in Saturdays for little Lincoln, so him and Kayla could go to the gym together. My name was in every single box. Every box was me, and I'm sitting there kind of laughing, thinking it's a joke, and I go, "Well, hang on, I've got the trip coming up," and Megan just waves her hand at me, waves it, like she's shooing a fly. She goes, "Mom, come on, you're just Grandma. What else do you even have to do all day?" And Ryan, my own boy, laughs and says, "Yeah, Mom, it's not like you've got a whole schedule. I want you to sit with that for a second," because I did. I sat with it right there with the pot roast going cold. What else do you have to do all day? Like the years just fell off me the second Ray died, and now I was nothing but a free pair of hands they could pass around whenever it was convenient. And here's the part that really got me. They'd already told the daycare. Megan mentions it like it's nothing. "Oh, we already gave notice at Little Sprouts to save the money. So it's really just easier if you take Harper starting the 15th. They'd made the decision. About my life. Without asking me one time. They'd already spent me. So let me back up and tell you who I actually am, because they'd clearly forgotten. My name's Diane. I'm 63. I've lived in Tulsa my whole life, the Brookside area, in the same little brick house off Peoria that Ray and I bought in 1987 when the mortgage felt like it might kill us. Ray was my husband. He passed 3 years ago, dropped in the driveway of all places, heart attack, gone before the ambulance even turned onto our street. 38 years we were married, and I will tell you, those first months after, I was not a person. I was a shape moving around a house that still smelled like him. But I came back. That's the thing my kids seem to have missed. I clawed my way back. I'd managed the front office of a dental practice down on Utica for almost 30 years before I retired, so I knew how to run things. And about a year after Ray died, I got restless, and I took a part-time job managing the front desk at a veterinary clinic over near 15th. And I loved it. I loved the dogs. I loved the chaos. I loved having somewhere to be. And then, and this is the part they really couldn't stand, I met somebody. His name is Gene. He's a widower, lost his wife to cancer 4 years back, and he restores old cars in a shop out in Sand Springs, and he is the kindest man I have met since Ray. We'd been seeing each other about 8 months by that Sunday. And Gene and I, we had a whole thing planned, a 3-week road trip. His camper, the two of us, the national parks, all the way out to the Grand Canyon and up through Utah and back. We'd booked it. We were leaving the second week of the next month. First real thing I'd looked forward to in 3 years. That's the trip Megan waved off her hand at. That was the, "What else do you have to do?" Now I need you to understand something else. And this is where it gets to be a real story, because it wasn't just my time they'd been helping themselves to. It was my money too, and they had no idea I knew exactly how much. When Ray died, there was life insurance. A good policy, he'd been paying into it forever. God bless that man for thinking ahead. And I did what any mother does. I helped my kids. Ryan and Kayla were trying to buy their first house out in Bixby, and they were $40,000 short on the down payment, and I gave it to them. Now Kayla, to her credit at the time, said, "Diane, we can't just take that. Let's make it official. Let's do a note." So we did. We wrote up a real promissory note, $40,000, monthly payments, and I drove them down to the UPS store on Memorial and had it notarized. All three of us signing. They made 4 payments. 4. Then the payments just stopped, and every time I even breathed near the subject, Ryan would get this pained look and say, "Mom, things are tight," and I'd let it go. Because that's what you do. Right? And Megan. When Megan and Cody bought their place in Broken Arrow, their credit wasn't strong enough on their own, so guess whose name is right there on that mortgage as a co-signer? Mine. And it doesn't stop there. I'd been quietly paying $600 a month for Bryce to go to that little Christian school over off Kenosha because Megan cried to me that the public school by them wasn't good enough and they just couldn't swing the tuition. $600 a month, coming straight out of my account for a year and a half. I was also paying the family cell phone plan. All 5 lines. Mine, Megan's, Cody's, Ryan's, Kayla's. So you add all that up. I was their bank. I was their co-signer. I was funding a private school. I was covering their phones. And now they wanted me to also be the full-time unpaid daycare so they could hit the gym and go to dinner. And when I mentioned one trip, the answer was, "You're just Grandma. What else do you have to do?" I drove them all out to their cars that night, and I hugged the babies, and I waved, and I smiled, and then I went back inside, and I sat down on the floor of my kitchen, on the actual floor, and I cried like I hadn't cried since Ray went down in that driveway. And here's the first place I almost lost, because I want to be honest with you about how close I came to just caving. I sat on that floor, and all I could think about was Harper. My little Harper, 3 years old with those fat cheeks, and how she runs at me screaming Gamma every time she sees me. And I thought, if I say no to this, what if I don't see them? What if this is the price of seeing my grandbabies? And I actually got up, and I got my phone, and I started typing a text to Megan that said, "Okay, honey, we'll figure it out. I'll make the trip work another time." I typed the whole thing out. And then I looked at it, and I thought about Jean, and I thought about that camper, and I thought about being 63 years old and asking permission to have a life. And I deleted it. I put the phone face down on the counter, and I went to bed, and I did not sleep. The next morning, I called Megan. And I stayed calm. I did. I'm proud of that. I said, "Honey, I love you and I love those kids more than my own life, but I can't do the schedule. I've got the trip with Jean. And even after that, I can't be your 5-day-a-week daycare. I'm happy to help sometimes, but not like this." Silence. Long one. Then she goes, "Wow. So you're really choosing some man you've known 5 minutes over your own grandchildren." And there it is. That's the move. That's the guilt grenade they lob when they don't get their way, and I felt it land right in my chest. I'm not gonna lie to you. I said, I'm not choosing anybody over anybody. I'm choosing to have a life of my own. And she goes, "Well, I hope your little vacation is worth it," and she hangs up on me. Now, if that was the whole story, that'd be sad enough. But my Megan, she doesn't just get mad, she gets even, and this is where it turned into something I could never have seen coming. 2 days later, I'm sitting on my porch with my coffee, and a car pulls into my driveway. It's Cody, Megan's husband, and he gets out, and he opens the back, and he unbuckles Bryce and Harper, and he sets their little backpacks on my step, and he goes, "Megan said you'd watch them today. We've got stuff." And he's already backing toward his car. I said, "Cody, wait. I never agreed to this. I told Megan I can't do the daily thing." And he just goes, "Look, Diane, I don't want to be in the middle of it." And he gets in, and he drives off, leaves 2 babies on my porch, drives off. So what am I going to do, right? I'm not going to leave those kids standing there. So I took them in, and I fed them, and we watched cartoons, and I loved every second of it, and I hated every second of it, because I knew exactly what was happening. They were testing me. They figured I'd never actually turn the kids away, so they could just keep dropping them. And I'd cave because I'm Grandma, and what else do I have to do? That night when Megan came to get them, she didn't even come to the door. She sat in the car and honked. Honked. For me to bring her children out to her. And something in me just went cold and quiet. You know that feeling, when you're so far past angry that you stop shaking and you just get very, very still. That's where I got to. I carried Harper out, and I buckled her in, and I looked at my daughter through the window, and I said, "This is the last time you drop them here without me saying yes first." And she rolled her eyes and pulled away. So the next morning I did 3 things, and I did them without a single ounce of drama, which is the part I think really scared them later. First, I called the school. I told them I was canceling the automatic tuition payment for Bryce, effective the next cycle. The lady was very nice about it. Second, I logged into my bank, and I stopped the 2 automatic transfers, the tuition one, and one I hadn't even mentioned to you yet. I'd been sending Megan $400 a month just, quote, to help, that she'd told Cody was her own money from a side thing. Gone. And third, I called the phone company, and I took everybody but me off my plan and told them the other 4 lines needed to be set up on their own accounts by the end of the month, or they'd be shut off. I didn't send an angry text. I didn't announce anything. I just quietly stopped being the well. And then I want you to know I did the thing that felt best of all. I called Jean, and I said, "Honey, we are going on that trip, and we are not canceling for anybody." And he said, "Diane, I never doubted it for a second," and I sat down and I cried again, but a different kind of crying that time. It took about a week for the ground to shift under them, and when it did, oh, it moved. Ryan called first, and he was doing the confused, innocent voice, "Mom, hey, weird question. Our phone bill thing came through and it says the account's changing. Is everything okay?" And I said, "Everything's great, sweetheart. I just decided it was time you all had your own plans. You're grown men and women with families." And there's this long pause, and then he goes, "Is this about the babysitting thing?" And I said, "No, honey, this is about me." And he didn't know what to do with that, so he just kind of mumbled and got off the phone. Then Megan called, and Megan was not confused. Megan came in hot. The school called her, see, because the tuition bounced, and she'd had to find out at pickup, in front of the other moms, that her account was past due. She was humiliated, and she was furious. She goes, "I cannot believe you would use Bryce's education as a weapon against me. What kind of grandmother does that?" And I said, "Megan, that was never your money to count on. I offered it out of love, and I can stop offering it out of love, too. If you can't afford the private school, he can go to the perfectly good public one right by your house." And she screams at me, "This is so you. This is so selfish. Ever since you met Jean, you've turned into a completely different person." And I said, "You're right about one thing. I have." That's when she said the thing that nearly broke me. And I want to warn you, this is the ugly part, because this is where I really almost lost, worse than the first time. She got very quiet, and she said, "Fine. If you're going to act like this, then you don't get to see them. Any of them. Bryce, Harper, none of them. You made your choice." And she hung up, and she meant it. That's the thing. I kept waiting for her to cool off, and she didn't. Days went by. I texted, no answer. I called, straight to voicemail. Harper had her little dance recital coming up, the one I'd bought a ticket for months ago, and when I showed up they weren't there. Megan had moved the whole family to sit on the far side, and Cody actually got up and walked away when he saw me coming. I sat through a room full of other people's grandchildren, and I watched some other families' Harper dance, and I drove home, and I did not know if I was ever going to hold my grandbabies again. I called Ryan crying, and I said, "Is she really doing this? Is she really keeping the kids from me and Ryan? God love him. He was scared. He goes, "Mom, I don't know. Megan's really dug in, and Kayla thinks maybe you should just apologize and do the schedule so everybody can move on." And I heard Kayla in the background going, "Tell her she can fix this whenever she wants. Fix this." Like I'd broken it. Like wanting my own life was the crime. And I'm going to be straight with you. I sat in my car in that parking lot and I damn near called Megan back to grovel. My thumb was over her name, because they had found the one thing that could actually bring me to my knees, which was my grandchildren, and they knew it, and they used it. But here's what stopped me. I thought, if I cave now, if I hand over my whole life to get them back, what have I taught these two? I've taught them that they can point my own grandbabies at me like a gun anytime they want something, and they'll do it forever. Bryce and Harper will grow up watching their mother treat Grandma like a servant she can fire, and someday they'll do it to me too. Or worse, they'll do it to somebody else. So I put the phone down, and I made a decision that I was going to hold the line, and if I lost my grandchildren over it, then at least I'd lose them standing up. But holding the line quiet wasn't enough anymore, not after the recital. Something in me decided it was time these two found out exactly what they'd been standing on this whole time. And that brings me to Bryce's birthday party. Bryce was turning 6, and the party was at Megan and Cody's house in Broken Arrow, the one with my name on the mortgage. And here's the thing. The invitation had gone out weeks before all this blew up, and it was a big family thing. My sister Carol was going. Cody's parents, Bill and Sandra Holland, were going, aunts, cousins, the works. And nobody had thought to uninvite me, or maybe Megan wanted me to feel too ashamed to show. Either way, my grandson was turning 6, and I was going to be there. Now before I went, I got a folder ready. And I want to be clear, I didn't do this to blow up a child's birthday. I would never. I love that little boy. I brought it in case. I'd learned my lesson about walking into a room with these two unarmed. In that folder, I had the notarized promissory note, $40,000, with Ryan and Kayla's signatures. I had a full print out of my bank transfers, every tuition payment, every $400 deposit into Megan's account, the phone bills, all of it, going back a year and a half, highlighted. And I had one more thing, a copy of that mortgage with my name right there as cosigner. I put it all in a plain manila folder, and I put it in my purse, and I drove out to Broken Arrow with a wrapped fire truck on the seat next to me, praying I wouldn't have to open it. I got there, and it was tense. Oh, it was tense. Megan looked at me like I'd tracked something in on my shoe. But the kids, God, the kids came running, Harper screaming Gamma and slamming into my legs, and Bryce showing me his missing tooth, and for a minute, it was just love. It was just family, and I thought maybe we could all just let it go. Then Sandra Holland, Cody's mother, this very proper woman, she comes over to me with her sweet tea and she goes, "Oh, Diane, it's just wonderful you could still make it. We know how busy your calendar's gotten with your gentleman friend." And she says gentleman friend, like it's a disease. And I realized in that second what story had been told about me. Megan had gone around to the whole family and painted me as the selfish grandmother who abandoned her grandchildren the second some man came along. That's the version they all had. Diane ran off with her boyfriend and left those poor kids high and dry. And I still might have let it go. I almost did. But then Megan, in front of everybody, by the cake table, with Bill and Sandra right there, she decides to twist the knife one more time. She goes, loud enough for the room, "Well, Mom, since you're here, maybe you can tell everyone why you decided your little vacation was more important than helping with your own grandkids. Maybe they can help me understand it." And the room went quiet. Everybody looking at me, my sister Carol looking at her plate. And I felt my face go hot, and I had that old instinct to shrink, to apologize, to keep the peace. And then I thought about the recital and Harper dancing while I sat in the dark. So I set down my sweet tea, and I said, "You know what, Megan? Sure. Let's help everybody understand it." And I went to my purse, and I took out that folder. I said, "Sandra, Bill, since Megan wants to talk about who helps who in this family, let me help." This is a note, notarized, for $40,000 I gave Ryan and Kayla for the down payment on their house 4 years ago. They've paid back $6,000 of it. Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong. And Ryan turned the color of that sheet cake. Kayla put her hand over her mouth. I kept going. I said, and this is my bank statement. That's $600 a month I've been paying for Bryce's private school, the one Megan says she couldn't afford. And this $400 a month, that's money I sent Megan every single month that she told Cody was her own. Cody, sweetheart, did you know about that $400? And Cody, standing there holding a paper plate, looks at his wife and goes, What $400? Oh, you could have heard a pin drop. And then, and this was the one that did it, I laid the mortgage down on the cake table and I said, and this beautiful house we're all standing in? My name is on this loan. I co-signed it. So when Megan tells you all that I abandoned this family the minute I wanted 3 weeks of my own life after burying my husband of 38 years, I just want the whole family to have the full picture. That's all. Happy birthday, baby. And I picked Bryce up and I kissed his cheek and I set him back down. Nobody said a word. Sandra Holland was staring at Megan like she'd never seen her before. Bill cleared his throat and found somewhere else to look. Carol, my sister, quietly said, Well, and put her fork down. And Megan just stood there. And her face, it did this thing. It crumpled. Because the whole story she'd been selling, the selfish grandmother, the poor abandoned mother just trying to keep it together, it fell apart in about 90 seconds in front of every single person whose opinion she cared about. She had built her whole picture of herself on being the good daughter with the deadbeat mom, and it was gone. I did not raise my voice one time. I want you to know that. I didn't have to. I said my goodbyes to the kids. I told Bryce Grandma loved him to the moon. And I got in my car and I drove home, and my hands were shaking on the wheel the whole way, but underneath the shaking, there was this thing I hadn't felt in months. It was quiet. My chest was quiet. The begging started that night. Ryan called at 9, and he was crying, actually crying. Mom, I'm so sorry. I never should have let it get like this. We'll start paying you back, I promise. Kayla and I talked, and we're going to set up real payments. Please don't hate us. And I said, I don't hate you, honey. I could never hate you, but you owe me a whole lot more than money. And he said, I know. And then, and I promise you this is exactly how it happened, about 10 o'clock there's a knock on my door, and I look through the window, and it's Megan and Cody standing on my porch in the cold. Megan's been crying, her makeup's a mess, and she's got her hand up to knock again, and I stood on the other side of that door, the door I'd cried behind so many nights, and I did not open it. Not that night. I let them stand there. I let them feel 1 ounce of what it feels like to be on the outside of a door with the people you love on the other side. And after a while, I heard Cody say, Come on, babe, and they went home. I know some of you think that's cold. Maybe it was, but I'd stood outside a lot of doors that month too. She came back the next day, alone, in the daylight, and that time I let her in. And she sat at that same kitchen table, the one with the laminated schedule, and she cried, and she said, Mom, I don't even know who I turned into. And I said, I don't either, baby, but I know who you used to be, and I'd like her back. And she told me the truth. That things with Cody had been tight and stressful, and she'd just started seeing me as this resource she could pull on, and somewhere in there, she'd stopped seeing me as a person at all. And I said, I know. I felt it. You told me I was just Grandma. And she really broke then. She said, I'm so sorry I said that. And I believe she was. So here's how it all shook out. And then I'll let you go. Jean and I took that trip. 3 weeks, the whole loop, and I stood at the edge of the Grand Canyon at sunrise with that good man's arm around me, and I cried for the 4th time in this story, but it was the best one. Ryan and Kayla set up automatic payments on that note, real ones, and they haven't missed one since, and honestly, the money matters less to me than the fact that they finally treated it like it was real. Megan and Cody took Bryce out of the private school and put him in the public one by their house. And you know what? He loves it. He's thriving. They got their own phone plan. They pay their own way now, and the grandkids. I see them all the time. But here's the difference, and it's everything. They come to me because everybody wants them there, not because I'm free labor somebody scheduled. Harper still runs at me screaming Gamma. Bryce lost another tooth. Sometimes Megan calls and says, "Mom, would you want to take the kids Saturday? No pressure." And sometimes I say yes, and sometimes I say I've got plans with Jean, and both of those are allowed now. Both of those are just allowed. I keep coming back to that word she used, just. You're just grandma. Like being somebody's grandmother is the leftover part of a person, the part with nothing in it. I raised 2 kids on a dental office salary. I buried a husband, and I got up off the floor. I built a whole new life in my 60s when a lot of people my age are giving up on the idea. There is no just about me. There's no just about any of us who've lived long enough to have grandbabies. We are not the spare hands. We are not the thing you pencil into a box. If you've got somebody in your life who only sees what you can do for them and stops seeing you the second you're not doing it, I want you to hear an old woman from Tulsa tell you this. You are allowed to have a life. You are allowed to say no to the people you love. And the ones who really love you back, they don't send you a bill for it, and they don't fire you when you finally stand up. Thanks for staying with me all the way to the end. Go call somebody who taught you something, and tell me where you're listening from. I meant it about the shout-out.